Hi, so I'm Gia. I'm from the European Film Club, and I'm here to speak with Isabel Coixet, the legendary filmmaker herself. So in your Q&A yesterday after your screening,
Yep.
you said what you think distinguishes European cinema from, say, like the Hollywood industry. And I was interested to know what role you think European cinema has in protecting cinema as an art form.
Since I've lived a little bit these two worlds of European cinema and American cinema, even if it was independent cinema, one of the things, I think of course, there is an industry factor. Hollywood films, studio films, they have tons of money. And when you have tons of money, there are like a bunch of people in control. I know, European films, they have been legendary, criticized. Auteurs, just directors making what they want, and sometimes they are wrong. And it's like, yeah, but corporations are wrong all the time too. So at least they make, let's give freedom to one person, and let's see what he or she does. And there are like lots of very obvious factors who are different, but for me, just that the fact of a director in Europe has some kind of free space to say what they think, what they feel, and for me that's the main thing. When I teach a class in a film school is listen, make your own mistakes, because there are no rules. The people who have made the best films, at least for me, are people who just say, I really want to tell that story. I wanna tell it in my, with my rules. And so at least, okay, you can fail. Yeah. So what?
And so, do you think that the craft of cinema as art is threatened in any way? And if so, how?
I think they had, the craft of making movies has been threatened from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Cinema has been always in this, in this little, the thin line between being art and being a joke. Mm-hmm. Right now, the thing is, the way, to be specific about cinema, the way we're watching movies the last 20 years now has been, diluted into this, screen time we are immersed right now. What's a danger for me is all the time I spend, let's say, in a sound place, like trying to create an atmosphere. All the time, my director of photography has spent like trying to, okay, that kind of gray in the background, we have that shade, we have to perfect it, and all that time, all that effort is going to nowhere if you're watching what I do in a telephone or in an iPad, no? It's not just the size of the screen, it's also how you can pay attention to this little thing with a shitty quality, with a bad sound, no? And for me, it's, sometimes it's heartbreaking, because even you see, your films and in television, and the color is just not what you do. Yeah. Or the sound, especially the sound, no? Because I'm really obsessed about sound, and when you see, you spend days and days to create this atmosphere, and then it's,
Actually, my next question was going to be, how do you think that, given the threat against cinema as an art, how do you think that the industry can adapt, or filmmakers can adapt to the changing landscape of how audiences are receiving cinema? But hearing your response, I feel as if a better question might be, do you think actually that audiences are the ones that should be more active in their approach to how they engage with cinema? Or do you think that cinema itself has to adapt to the audience?
I think cinema is adapting.
Yeah.
Cinema is always adapting, and that's what we should do. I think the industry is doing what they can, they are doing bigger films with really, levels of violence to really shock you, or, choosing especially themes who will connect with an audience. And I think we all filmmakers will do it, because also we live in this world, and, if there is a touchy subject, of course, we are aware of it, and we think about it, and we do things about that subject. I wish I had a more, the perfect solution for all these dangers. I try to not to avoid, touchy subjects, points of view who are not, because sometimes they are comfortable. And that being uncomfortable, I think it's part of art. I don't want to see art who is like a marvelous mirror of who I am or what I think. I want to ask questions, and I want to be, I want to be scratchy. I know it's an adjective probably people don't apply to movies, but some films are, they make you like being uncomfortable in your seat, and that's something I always aim to.
Speaking about sort of uncomfortability, and like you said yesterday that you connect with or are more drawn to films that make you feel uncomfortable. But what do you think are the limitations of cinema when you're trying to achieve this? For example, like I suppose, like for example, in the theater, you've got actors that are performing right in front of you, and as the audience, you can't help but feel as if the dialogue is being directed at you. Whereas I think with the danger with cinema perhaps is that the audience can feel as if they can take more of a passive role. How do you think that cinema is limited in achieving this like uncomfortability, or do you think there are advantages to cinema as well?
I have to say I thought a lot about that question, because I'm not a fan of theater. This is very, very personal. It's not a statement about theater. It's just when I see they are like real people, for me, this is something I assume this is not real. Whatever they do, I think the trick and the magic of the movies is like, it's not true because it's just a projection, but then it becomes more real than whatever real people are in front of you. And for me, that will be a little bit like the difference between theater and movies, no? Because in movies you assume they are not real, and when you're there, in an audience, among an audience, in a film theater, it becomes real.
Right. Yeah, and you lose yourself with the images that are projected on the screen.
Yeah.
I mean, you spoke about your personal response to theater, but what made you choose cinema as a way to tell stories?
For me, it was something very natural. Like my grandmother sold tickets in a movie booth in a movie theater, and I don't know, I was there when I was a kid. My parents worked, so I was there all the time, and writing was too easy, and I thought, no, this is, I don't know, for me there is a touch of magic in making movies and recreating this reality, the analogy between a film and a dream, who I was very naturally, directed to making movies.
And you mentioned yesterday how you continue to enjoy feeling like the intimacy and like the hands-on feeling of filmmaking by being the camera woman for all your films. But I was also wondering if there are any aspects in which you feel that you've evolved as a filmmaker since you first started.
In terms of in terms of craftsmanship, in terms of being on set, I think there is a magic when you have done, 16 feature films. That thing about when you're scouting, and around you people say, no, we cannot do that theater because this is no, because the light, the sun goes down there, and if we do that at 7, the sun, and then you're there, and you say, no, 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 we're going to do it here. And everybody looks at you like, what? Oh, no, 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 it's here. Because there is a sixth sense you have, like, this is the place, this, and you can see it, and this is something, it's very difficult to explain, no? It's like all the things you know about lighting and sound and framing and camera and acting, all of a sudden they are in sync, and you know that place is the place, and we're going to do it, and it's going to be fine, no? And it's very rewarding when people say this, like, you were right. Yes, I love that.
So, like, through your personal experience, you feel that that's developed over time, the sixth sense?
I think it's my most precious, precious treasure. Like, really, I know how to film in any circumstance, in everywhere.
How do you choose which stories to share with the world?
I always think the stories choose me. Like, this is the last documentary I've done, the Yellow Ceiling. You know, I was just reading a paper, and then that story about these underage girls who had been abused by a theater professor in a little town in Spain. There are like lots of stories like that every day, but there was something in that story, like especially the way nobody in that village believed them, that made me think. I felt they were telling the truth, and I don't know. I was reading that, and it's like I have to know these girls. I have to do something with them because I really believe them, and I was on rage. I was like, rage and frustration are also very powerful sources of inspiration. For me, that was the rage of they are not believing these girls, and I sense they are telling a very horrible truth, and that's how I did this documentary, and I have to say, one of the amazing things is, thanks to the documentary, they opened the case, and everybody's believing them now, and I was very proud of that. But how I choose that, I don't know. I was enraged. I was so frustrated, like reading the ways they didn't believe them, and it's like, come on, okay, one person can lie. 2 can lie, but 15?
Right, yeah. So, having told all these important stories that are meaningful to you, but also meaningful to society, how do you hope to influence cinema by the time that you left your mark on the industry?
We filmmakers, we can change the world. I don't think we can, but what I think is we can explain it. And probably explain at least some things of what's going on will be the first step to change it. It's probably one of the biggest regrets. I think I really thought, we can change the world, and I see we're not changing the world. But we're changing little things. I mean, for me, probably one of the most practical cases is that documentary I was telling you, because thanks of that, the authorities began to work, and judges and prosecutors were aware of what was going on, and this is truly something affecting reality.
So would you say that then, that the role of cinema is, in your opinion at least, to reflect, or is it to challenge society, or should it and can it do both?
I think when you say things like, like the cinema must be that or must be this other thing, I don't know, there are filmmakers like, Ken Loach, who always, chooses do social conflicts, and he's relentless about that, and other filmmakers, they choose something else. Like, for me, there's no There's not big subjects or minor subjects. I think the beauty of a film is it's just being genuine, and if it's genuine, if it comes from a very, very deep and true place inside of you, it will touch someone out there. Maybe not a million, maybe just, 10,000 or 10. But for me, just that is meaningful and it's important.
I mean, like, just drawing from our conversation today, I think one of the key kind of ideas that I've been drawing out is the sense that because films are about people, essentially, that what matters most in the end is the sincerity of it instead of perhaps, the bigger aims of it. But if there is one message that you would want to convey to young audiences, but also other like young aspiring filmmakers, what would that one message be?
There are no rules. Don't pay too much attention to advice of people. Make your own mistakes and be really sincere. And that, but to be sincere is not that easy, because also we tell lies to ourselves in order to survive. But seeing through these, let's say, white lies you tell yourself, be sincere.
And confront the truth, essentially. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed speaking with you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks.